I ain't got nothing but love, babe. 8 days a geek.
Hello and welcome back to 8 Days a Geek here on YouTube and of course on our lovely website, boys. Very exciting. Welcome back to this next installment in the What If series. So today, boys, we got quite an exciting one. This is one that I've thought about an awful lot over the years, and when it sort of came back to me and to suggest it to us here, I was like, oh yes, it's absolutely perfect, because it's one of those really small but really sort of like nitty gritty questions. And so the question for everyone at home is, what if James Potter had his wand when Voldemort came to call? It's a huge question. So so we're going to go through in order as we do. Prior's going to start us off, then I think maybe Jenks will take over, and then maybe I'll finish off. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But I'll just set the scene for you. So everyone knows that Voldemort comes calling at Godric's Hollow because of the prophecy that's been revealed to him. Peter Pettigrew has revealed the location of the Potter's house in Godric's Hollow. Otherwise, Voldemort literally just couldn't have got in. He couldn't have seen it. He wouldn't have known it was there. And so he's able to get inside. Harry, James, and Lily are in the lounge. And James is entertaining Harry with just nice magical effects from his wand, like special effects, CGI stuff. It's very impressive. Yeah. And he throws it down casually because obviously he feels content and safe. And then he just pops out for a glass of milk or something and suddenly finds Voldemort in the hall. It's like, jeez, where did you come from? I mean, imagine that. But consequently, he doesn't have his wand. And so he tells Lily to take Harry and run, and he says that he'll hold him off, and then presumably tries to hit him or something. I don't know. Yeah, just tries to deck him. You can't really headbutt Voldemort because there's no nose. How does he smell? Terrible.
Awful.
There it is. You see, classic humor. Yeah. But yeah, so our question is, what would have happened if James had taken his wand into the hall to go and get some milk? So, Pride, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks.
You are welcome.
Great intro, mate. Good start to this What If. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ben. Yeah, so I actually read up on this little excerpt from the book. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoa, let's stop right there.
Headline.
Have you done research for this?
Well, we all got to do our bit, haven't we?
He says 30 episodes in.
Yeah. You know what? I'd like to have my grand entrance, and this is it. No,
I'm excited.
No, I haven't done a lot of research. I just read this particular bit. Because it was interesting, because I did ask this myself. Why on earth would James Potter and Lily Potter not be always on their guard when they know Lord Voldemort is hunting them? They know that they're in danger all the time, basically, and it seems foolish that they would be so blasé as to just say, you know what, leave my wand there, don't even care about that. But of course they did trust Peter an awful lot, and they presumed that he wouldn't, well, they would never have known that he would have done this. So what would have happened? Well, we know that James and Lily have both gone toe-to-toe with Voldemort in the past 3 times and managed to get away. So they've never won particularly in a fight, but they've managed to get away, which I think is the point that I think would be similar here, is the fact that they'd be able to get away. They're in familiar surroundings, and if they had their wands and use of their magic, then perhaps they could have held him off long enough for even Lily, in my opinion, to apparate away, maybe, or something like that. Because I know that they were very powerful witch and wizard, and they were very good at what they did. So I think they would have had the ability to at least fend him off long enough for Lily to get away. I think James would have always probably died, kind of being frontline and trying to buy Lily enough time to get away. But I think Lily would have got away with Harry. I think they made a very boring set of films, but a very interesting thought at the same time.
Yeah, interesting. I suppose then the question is like, or the 2 questions that come up is that what was the manner in which they, because the line is like they defied him 3 times, right? That's specifically what JK says. And so is it a case of, as you say, they just escaped? I mean, presumably that's what it is, rather than maybe it's never really elaborated on exactly what happens. I think one of them is supposed to be that Voldemort tried to recruit them and they defied him by saying no. But the other two are sort of up for grabs in terms of the canon. Is it that they actually did enter into a duel situation, or did they just manage to get away, or
Yeah, I
is
mean,
it because both of them were there? As you say, they were both really powerful, so together they were able to, put
yeah,
up a
I
fight?
always saw it as they were on the run, similar to how Harry's always kind of been on the run towards the latter end of the films. I
Mm,
always saw it as that because it seems to be Voldemort's game to do this kind of cat and mouse chase that he's always doing to
yeah,
keep enemy on edge at all times, play games with them. And so I always saw it as them managing to get away rather than kind of winning in a duel. It doesn't seem
yeah.
like, even though they were a great witch and wizard, I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think that they would have been able to.
I don't think. Yeah,
Again.
I don't think anyone wins pretty much against Voldemort. Like Dumbledore draws with him
Exactly.
essentially. Like Snape wouldn't have beaten him,
No.
Bellatrix wouldn't have beaten him. All of these, legendarily powerful witches and wizards just could at best draw with him. That's sort of how it seems to go. So the second question is then, what difference would Lily surviving and James not make? So Harry doesn't go to the Dursleys, grows up with Lily, grows up knowing that he's a wizard, but still wants to avenge his father.
Mm.
Like, do you remember he says in the books to Dumbledore that Dumbledore asks him, "What if you'd never heard of the prophecy?" And he says that he'd still want to be the one to take down Voldemort. And essentially, it's a revenge thing, right? He's trying to avenge his parents' murder.
Yeah.
So if only one of them is there, you would question how that would change what would go on. But I suppose it's a bit like, do you remember Arthur Weasley says to him, "Promise me you won't go looking for Black." And at
Yeah.
that point, he doesn't know why. And then when it's revealed to him, and he fully understands, he still he charges headlong into it.
Yeah.
I think it will be the similar sort of thing here. It'll be revealed by Lily.
Yeah, I think so. I think they would have been a bit cryptic about it, for his safety, and they would have followed a similar path to, as you say, with Sirius, the way that
Yeah.
they approached that. I think it would have been quite the same. But I think he would have had a bit more of a head start in his uh, education in magic
Yeah.
compared to what he did. Of course, he was living with the Dursleys. You're not going to have any education in the practice of magic at all.
No.
Or and so I think he would have had a bit of a head start when it comes to that, and he might have been able to kind of progress a bit faster, perhaps to the level of someone like Cedric Diggory, who was able to progress a lot quicker.
Bloody Hufflepuffs
Sorry,
sticking together.
just
But no, look, you are right. He didn't get a chance to practice his magic. I mean, he didn't cast a spell until the second year, according to the films.
you're kind of slating Hufflepuff. I'm looking at your T-shirt, and I'm not seeing anti-Hufflepuff there.
I mean, you are right.
Yeah.
But
You're seeing Uncle.
I should really, yeah, I'll burn this tomorrow. Don't worry.
Yeah, they're my thoughts.
Lord.
Very
I
good.
I actually love this question because it is so pivotal, and I want to know what.
Yeah. Hey, AJ,
Well,
take it away, Jay.
I kind of got this comparison
Oh,
to Revenge of the Sith,
oh God,
as I do with everything.
your one
But-
true love.
So personally, I believe if they both had their wands, or James just had his wand, I think maybe at that point, after all the stuff they've gone through, because I went through the three defining things as they have tried to fight him off, ran. They've tried to fight him off, ran. Tried to fight him off, ran. I think that if he literally came into their home, I personally believe that Lily and James would go, "This is it. This is it. We just have to fight him. We have to move him away, push him away from Harry. Because, if it's just one of them, James could have gone down and exactly the same thing could have happened. Maybe Lily would have escaped, maybe not. But the thing that gets to me is that maybe they would have held him off long enough for Snape to arrive.
Oh,
Didn't think about that.
And then this is the moment that I think, the classic Anakin moment, of Snape there in front of Lily, who he loves, Voldemort, who is confessed, who is a massive follower for, and Voldemort believes he is, he would have had to choose literally between Lily or Voldemort. And obviously he's still got that hatred there for James after everything that's happened before. So that's what I think, because exactly like you say, Weeks, most people draw. And I think even if Lily and James were fighting Voldemort, they'd still draw with him. There'd still be this absolute stalemate. But I think if Snape turned up, there could possibly be a difference there.
So do you think that Snape would have sacrificed himself for Lily and tried to take on Voldemort?
Well, I think you see it more in the books when he turns up to Godric Hollow and he sees what has happened to Lily and how much that destroys him as a person.
And officially, he has turned to the light at this point because he's found out about the betrayal, and he goes to Dumbledore and asks him to protect them.
Yeah.
Before this.
Yeah. And Dumbledore isn't anywhere to be seen at this point. So
Yeah, cheers, Dumbledore.
Snape.
Late.
But it just comes to the question: would Snape have stayed with Voldemort, or would he have just helped Lily and James? Which again is hard for him because of how much he hates James.
Yeah.
But if it's for Lily, I think he would have joined the fight. Possibly, if he saw it going on, he may have contacted the Order. Something could have happened like that. But yeah, I personally think they would have just gone for Voldemort and realised he's literally in our house. We can't keep escaping. Harry's in the living room. Let's push him out. Let's get him out into the streets. Something like that. And then Snape would then suddenly emerge, and he'd just be in between this.
The only problem with Snape is that he takes so long to cast Expelliarmus. He would have been forever. Expelliarmus.
So, James,
Both of them dead on the floor.
do you think? Damn! Do you think that they would have beaten Voldemort? Like, we know that he's got his Horcruxes, but like this particular body, as
I
the
don't
three
think
of
they
them.
would have beaten him, but I think if those three were literally fighting Voldemort, he either would have withdrew, or if in Godric's Hollow and this massive duel is happening between 3 against 1, there would have been an alert. I think there could have been a possibility to capture Voldemort.
Yeah, well, it's a wizarding community, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So people would have people would have tried to find out what's going on. The Ministry may have been contacted.
Maybe that awful cat alarm went off.
Oh, God. Zane.
Finally coming in handy, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I kind of thought of it. I do think of that Snape standing there between them just dueling. Like,
That's a lovely image.
I think that's a fantastic little, when we're talking about like little parallel dimensions of
Yeah,
film
yeah.
where something else could go. I think that would be an amazing one.
Yeah, God, imagine that. What a scene.
And it would be epic just to know all through Snape's childhood. Growing up.
Well, I'm sure we're all together in the opinion that we would like to see a Snape coming of age film. I mean, when he's younger,
Like an American kind of high school film.
not like American High School or anything like that. It did sound like that when I said it. His younger years at Hogwarts in a film.
Oh man, no one understands me.
This sucks.
I'm just different. But I mean, I think that would be an absolutely epic moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, maybe even then, it could still technically be in the books. He just watches them both die.
Yeah.
He just watches Lily and James die right in front of him, and he does nothing. And
Now, that would have been a hell of a reveal in book 7.
Yeah, I think that's better. In my opinion, that he just walks in.
JK, if you're listening,
Yeah,
it's
we'll
not
tell
too
him.
late. You can change it.
He walks in. There's James on the floor. I'll just step over him.
Yeah, quick kick as you go by.
Yeah. Just pop upstairs. Ah!
Oh,
And
rats.
then Harry just going.
Yeah, he's like, is everything all right?
Yes. I know it looks okay.
It looks bad. It looks bad. I've done
Hold my
nothing.
hands up.
Another bold guy came in. Not me. Not me.
I'm at the description, but trust me, it's the other guy.
Different guy.
Snape just walks in. I came here.
Oh, God. It's good, James. It's a really good thought. I'd never thought of Snape being in there because, of course, we're never really given an indication of the time frame
No.
of when he arrives at Godric's Hollow. But like,
Maybe he is on his way. Maybe he's heard. 'Cause
um,
he's heard about what Pettigrew's done. He's gone. Oh my
Yeah.
God, Voldemort's going to find.
maybe that's his plan to try and
Yeah.
save them.
I think it must have been. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
Have just,
I've never really thought about that.
What makes it funnier is if it was actually
Is
the
it funny?
Funnier. Why is it funny at all?
the time frame was actually like weeks after, and he turned up like, "What's going on here? I just what the? It was dead."
Angel.
It can't. But like Harry is still like he's wide awake in his little cot,
Yeah.
so it can't be more than like I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that.
Yeah.
Realistically,
But
really
yeah,
interesting.
That's what I think it would be. It would have been amazing for Snape's character. There you go, J.K. Get that done. Christopher.
I mean, that's great. That's really lovely. Yeah, I've really never thought about that at all. My thoughts went more to Pryor's way of thinking, thinking about them fighting, or rather, defying the Dark Lord 3 times, whatever that means, and definitely thinking of it as being fighting and escaping, fighting and escaping. Even if we know that the first one is them denying, denying him, you know. And yeah, so in my head, we know that they're incredibly like skilled and powerful witches and wizards because Voldemort wanted to recruit them like himself, right? So that he wanted them to be Death Eaters, and probably they would have been like high up in, even though they're Gryffindors, they would have been high up in a sort of inner circle because of their power and their influence, and the Potters are really rich, etc. So he definitely was very, very interested in having them. So my thinking is definitely they'd be more powerful together. So in this instance, James versus Voldemort is always Voldemort is the winner. Like I don't think he gets close to a draw. It's definitely he manages to delay him. Bits and pieces. I mean, presumably he can do just wildly destructive stuff because he'd be aware that he's not going to survive this, and he'd commit to that. Like as soon as he saw Voldemort there and he's got his wand, he's like, okay, fine. I know exactly what's going to happen here. I just have to let them get away. And he sacrifices himself in that way. So he could blow apart the house around them and just give them the chance to get away. So in my head, what would happen is that James would last, I don't know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, enough time for Lily to get beyond the boundary. Presumably there's some sort of enchantment to stop them evaporating, and for her and Harry to get away. And that's sort of the best outcome that I can see in my mind, because, I mean, Lily wouldn't have joined in the fight because she's trying to protect Harry, and that's sort of how it would go for James. So my mind then goes down the route of what would have happened if Lily had survived, and if Harry had had this magical upbringing, and presumably, even though it goes around a more sort of circuitous route in that he's raised by a wizarding family, aware of his heritage and all that. I mean, it's Harry, and he's still like any sort of potential arrogance that he would have would be it would be tempered by the fact that his father has been killed. Also, he wouldn't be the boy who lived anymore, which is a very, very different thing. He would still have the prophecy on him, as in, like, the prophecy's already been told. We know that one approaches who will destroy the Dark Lord and all this, and he will have more power that he knows not, and all that sort of stuff. That still all applies, but you wouldn't have the scar. You wouldn't have the bit of Voldemort's soul inside him.
It wouldn't be a
So
Horcrux.
No, so it would all play out very differently. So presumably, you imagine that this version of Voldemort is still alive and still out there, so the Wizarding War carries on. Presumably, Voldemort continues to just grow in power. Like, although Dumbledore is defying him, the Ministry are powerless against him. He takes over the Ministry and the country late in the second Wizarding War, the one that we see. So presumably he does it in the first Wizarding War, and Lily and Harry just go into hiding.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, Harry, through some other means, comes to face Voldemort. But then the issue for me is that he's lost his big protections. So he's lost that Lily died to save him. He's got that James died to save him. I don't know if that's... I mean, it's not quite the same thing. I think the mother-son bond is quite important in this. I'm not 100% on that. but someone did still die to save him, so he's still got that protection. It's just a slightly different one, maybe not quite as powerful as the other bond. And he's not got the Horcrux inside him, which is tethering him to life when he is struck down by Voldemort in the forest. So in my head, Voldemort wins in this instance. And I think it probably goes on and they go into hiding, but because Harry hasn't got the Horcrux, and because Voldemort never took in Lily's protection through the blood and all that sort of thing, they're not tethered to each other in the same way. So maybe Harry wins once because his father died to save him and the killing curse is repelled. But then the second time it comes around, and it would come back around because Voldemort's got millions of Horcruxes all over the shop. Harry dies and Voldemort wins.
Yeah.
So they had to die. It's a Doctor Strange moment. They really had to die for it to all come good in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because would
Which is
Harry have
tough.
found out about Voldemort's Horcruxes?
Exactly. It would have all gone very differently because Voldemort hasn't been resurrected in the same way. And
and he wouldn't have gone to the Ministry to find the prophecies there or
Yeah.
anything like that. He wouldn't fully understand why he's the one that's meant to kill.
yeah.
You know.
So I think they would come back together again. So like if you imagine from before the first book up to the seventh book, essentially you just skip over all of that and it's just a big arc that comes around, but it lands in the same place and just has a different outcome.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thought. The other thing that occurs to me in the Snape thing is, do you remember in the Great Hall, in the books this is, Voldemort is dueling, I think it's McGonagall, Kingsley, and Slughorn at the same time. So that makes me question, and he's like on a level with them, like they can't get a hit on him. Three really, really immensely powerful witches and wizards. So that makes me question how James and Lily would have got on.
Yeah.
Even with Snape there as well. We know that Snape's like immense, but would they have had the air? That's another.
That could have been the thing, is that Snape could have just stood there, watched them both die.
Yeah.
And not done anything.
Well, yeah. That's another what if.
Yeah.
What if in this potential retelling of the story, Snape did something instead of doing something else?
Coming up next time.
Yeah, it's getting very, very in depth now.
But I do think as well that Snape is a pinnacle part of everything that pretty much happens to Harry.
Yeah.
Through each film.
Yeah.
If he's not there.
Oh, what if Snape then decided to get with Lily after all this because James is dead?
Get with Lily.
But that's the go.
Becomes his stepdad.
What if Lily chose Snape instead of James?
Crikey.
Look, stop asking these in the current episode. Save them for the in-between and we'll cover them.
They are for more. But there's a very interesting theories that we brought up.
They are.
There.
Boys, let me we must talk about those more, but let's sum up this particular question, okay? So let me ask you the question. Prior, you first. What if James Potter had his wand? What is the eventual outcome?
He would have fought off Voldemort, saved and therefore saved Lily and Harry, but the eventual outcome is that James would be dead, Lily would be with Harry and protecting him, and I think, I don't know anything past that. Perhaps Voldemort would have risen even more to power, like you say, and the world would be thrown into the ashes.
Cool. But your main conclusion is that they managed to get away?
Yeah.
Nice. Jenks, same question.
I believe that they would have both tried to fight him off. It would have been for a long enough period of time to Snape to turn up. And I think Snape would have had to make the choice between Lily or Voldemort or nothing. And I believe that even if the three of them took him on, there would have been an alert and Voldemort probably would have got out of there. Or if Voldemort did nothing, he would have actually watched Lily die in front of him.
Crikey.
And it's dark stuff. Mine is that Voldemort wins. I think that they escape, that James dies reasonably quickly, but there's enough time, and that it all comes back around via a different route to Harry dueling Voldemort, presumably for the second time, and Harry dies and Voldemort wins.
There we are, folks.
It's a dark one, boys.
Yeah.
It's a dark one. But I mean, we'll talk about those other what ifs and see if we can come back to them when we next do a.
We did say
We
we
have
were
a
gonna
Harry
do it.
Potter week.
We did say we were going to do a Harry Potter one, but we went heavy on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, it's interesting though. It just unlocks so much, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like
Just
potential.
one thing.
Yeah, amazing. The whole. I've often thought that Harry Potter, like it pivots on these moments, and
Yeah.
if they don't happen, it's completely different.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting.
Yeah.
But lovely boys, thank you so much for joining me in this episode of What If. It's been an absolute pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got a website out there that you need to go and visit. It's just chock full of wonderful stuff. Prior, what's it chock full of?
I'll tell you what it's chock full of, mate. To
Go
the
on.
brim of fantastic updated content from our podcasts and our YouTube channel, which is just automatically updated. There's no payments or anything like that. You just get it. You just get it. There's
Amazing.
also a little bit of merchandise on there that you can get, so you can rock some of the famous quotes that we've been talking about in the past ones. If you're a recurring fan, you'll know what they mean. And yeah, loads more stuff. We might even have a blog eventually if
We
we're
might.
doing
We
it.
might.
Uh,
Really looking forward to that. And of
Hey,
course,
Ready, go.
yeah,
No,
there
it's
you go.
.com.
Oh God, we're international, of course we are, and of course, I'm sure that a lot of you out there are subscribed to our podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. But if you're not, for God's sake, please subscribe and do leave us a comment, a thought, your opinion. What do you think would have happened in this situation that we've been discussing? And do leave us a nice rating and a review on one of those podcast platforms, because we love to know what you guys think, and we love to change our wicked ways as we go along, slowly but surely.
Oh yeah.
Unrelated to the podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, I have been Chris Weeks, and I've been joined by
Benjamin Fryer.
and
AJ Jenks.
did it opposite alphabetical.
I know.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
That was silly.
But altogether, we are 8 Days a
Hey,
Geek.
hey.
8 days a geek.
Sorry, boys. My mum started singing kind of halfway through that.